Tea is something that is quintessentially British. In fact, over 100 million mugs of the stuff are brewed every single day. How then to go about making the perfect cup? Well, I've partnered up with Camellia's Tea House to talk you through. A good place to start is the product itself. And whilst tea can be used as quite a broad term to cover a range of different drinks, traditional tea comes from one plant, which is called Camellia sinensis. Basically a bush or a shrub that grows really well into tropical and subtropical climates. The biggest producers in the world are India, China, Sri Lanka, parts of Africa, and also Japan. It's just been around forever, so it's about 5,000 years. First records appear of sort of what we commonly think of as tea. And it's had quite a history. It's been embroiled in trade wars, it's been involved in physical wars, colonialism. There's so much sort of history behind it, and all just for this really simple drink. Tea is made up from the leaves primarily of the Camellia sinensis plant, and the colour comes from the amount of oxidation that the plant goes through. So black and green tea actually comes from the same part of the plant, but black tea goes through a long period of oxidation, basically the same as what would happen to, say, an avocado or an apple. Particularly if you cut into it and expose the flesh to the air, it would go black. Whilst it's true that they all come from the same plant, there are loads of different varieties found all over the world. English breakfast tea is the most commonly consumed tea in the UK, and it's actually a blend of a number of different teas, and that blend changes, which is why you get so much variation. Good old-fashioned PG tips. Pretty typical example of a normal tea bag. These are a blend of Ceylon, Assam, some African tea in there as well. Of course, it's not just the English breakfast blends that are worth exploring. There are hundreds of different varieties, all with slightly different flavours, that are all really worth experimenting with. Most tea comes in the form of a humble tea bag. However, to make a super convenient tea bag, tea makers have had to adapt the way that they produce their tea. Let me show you how. So basically what you find with a tea bag is, in order to get the right level of infusion, the producers have to make the tea really small, almost to the point where it's like a powder. This basically increases the surface area and allows the tea to brew really quickly. It's why a tea bag only takes about 30 seconds. If you compare the two, it's not really comparable. You can actually, the tea bag is almost powder-like, whereas the loose leaf tea is thick, well, leaves. So what does that mean in terms of flavour? Smaller tea has a higher surface area to volume ratio, which means it infuses much more quickly. What it also means is more of the tea is exposed to the air, and it therefore loses its freshness. So if you haven't worked it out by now, clearly loose leaf tea is going to feature in my perfect cup of tea. As I've already mentioned, I've partnered up with Camellia's Tea House for this video, who are an amazing producer of bespoke, handcrafted loose leaf teas. They really focus on high quality teas with a health and well-being focus. English breakfast is a great example of how good tea can be. So I will link their website and online shop and everything down in the description. So you've got your tea. You're going to need one of these bad boys. I prefer one with a removable tea filter, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So we obviously talked about the tea, but the other sort of glaringly obvious ingredient that we've so far missed is the water. Now, using good water is also really important when it comes to great tasting tea. So I strongly suggest you use filtered water in your kettle if you're really trying to optimize the flavor. In terms of the temperature, that also does vary based on what tea you're using. Whilst it's true that boiling water is definitely best for the majority of black teas, green teas, white teas, some of the more delicate flavors out there are just kind of ruined by boiling water. So something closer to 80 degrees is much more appropriate. But if you're in any doubt, check on the box, check online. Most tea makers will specify the ideal temperature. Whilst boiling, it's time to prepare your tea. Again, the ratio is quite important. So black tea, such as this English breakfast, it's generally a teaspoon or two, or just one dessert spoon. Once your tea is ready and your kettle is boiled, it's time to steep the tea. But before you do so, please like and subscribe to the video, as it really helps the channel. Now, how long should you steep the tea for? As we've discussed, the tea bag, 30 seconds is absolutely fine. The tea is so small that it infuses straight away, and too long and it will just be horrible and bitter. With loose leaf tea, it's gonna take a bit longer, and that's fine. It gives you much more flexibility in terms of adjusting the tea to your taste. A black tea like this, for me, 3 minutes is the sweet spot. You could go a bit more than that if you prefer. Green teas, I really wouldn't go more than that. They can be really bitter, and some can be much longer. As I say, black tea, 3 minutes for me is the sweet spot. Once the 3 minutes are up, this is exactly why I prefer this style of teapot. What you can do is just remove the tea from the pot, leave to one side, and that will stop the tea from brewing immediately, which in my haste to film this video, I've clearly not removed. From here, the only decisions left are what to serve your tea with. Milk, no milk, does the milk go in first or does it go second? You use lemon with certain teas. Look, the answer to all of those is personal preference. For me, a good quality black tea doesn't need anything at all. Even an English breakfast like this, it will go great with a little bit of milk, but certainly not much. Other black teas, I don't think need milk at all, particularly delicate ones. In terms of the order, look, I don't see any difference in putting the milk in first or second, but I am completely happy to be proved wrong. If you have any evidence to contradict this, please do comment below, as I would love to be proved wrong. So that's it, my perfect cup of tea, perfect for a sort of mid-morning or sort of early afternoon, delicate, delicious pick-me-up. Thank you so much for watching, and of course go and check out Camellia Tea House online. Some other great teas that you might want to try. I love their variations on Earl Grey, so the Earl Grey Orange is a real standout for me. The White Apricot has won awards, really lovely, delicate tea, and white tea is a whole really super interesting category in its own right. Their green mint, again, really, really tasty. If you struggled perhaps with green teas in the past, you found they're bitter, the green tea with mint is a really good option. And if you haven't tried Lapsang Souchong before, that is one I would definitely give a go. It's a smoked tea, it'll clear your sinuses, and it's not for everyone, but I love it. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.